Good morning and welcome to today's episode of The Boardroom, where, as always, we are having conversations with some of Malta's leading business minds to understand the opportunities and the challenges that we have facing us in the economy, business, and beyond. As always, we are live on Facebook. Thank you. If you are joining us live, you can add your comments and your questions to the stream below. But if not, don't worry, you can stream this back on who'swho.mt, Malta's leading business portal. Now, today we're going to have some news on the show, news of a merger between Zampa Debattista and Mint Finance. And we're going to be speaking to two of the partners from within those organizations to understand everything that's led up to the merger and, of course, the opportunities that have been created by it. So allow me to welcome today's guests. They are Mark Wirth. Mark is a partner currently at Mint Finance, but soon to be Zampa Debattista, of course, and Jo Debattista, who is a founding partner at Zampa Debattista, leading the audit and financial reporting section of that company. Gentlemen, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here. And this is great news, really interesting to hear about this merger that's going to be taking place on 1st of January 2022.
Thank you, Jo. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Great to see you. So, Mark, I'm going to come to you first and we'll jump right in. I'd love to hear a little bit about the partners behind, these organizations and perhaps their roles within the company. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that to start us off.
Okay. When we merge on 1st January, we're going to have 5 partners. There's John, Matthew, and Chris from Zampa Debattista side. And Michael and myself from Mint Finance. John, Matthew, and Chris have known each other for a while. They've worked together at Zampa Debattista, obviously, and even before that. Michael and I have also been good friends from when we were young. We're actually school friends, and later on met at university as well. The 5 of us knew each other kind of over the last few years, working in the same industry. But over the last year or so, when we started the merger talks, we really got to know each other, and the bond is quite good over there as well. What's also good about us is that the age range between the 5 partners is quite similar as well. There's around 5 years maximum between the eldest and the youngest, which helps a lot, I think, because we have, there's a bit more similarity over there, as well as our mindset as well. We all have a very similar mindset in the sense that we give training and education a lot of importance. We really enjoy training and building kind of the younger professionals to grow within our respective firms. So I think the synergies are there. On 1st January, Matthew is going to be heading the tax and VAT departments. John will be leading the audit department, which is our largest department, as well as financial reporting. Chris will be responsible for growing our business advisory department. I'll be leading the client accounting department, and Michael will be involved mainly in managing the firm internally, but will also be involved in certain other departments such as audit and so on.
That's so interesting, Mark. Thank you for that introduction to all the different partners that are coming together for this exciting merger. And, it's a big deal to decide to merge 2 companies like Mint Finance and Zampa Debattista. Very exciting decision for you all to have taken. Perhaps, Mark, you could tell me a little more about what led to that merger, how the conversation started and how the decision was actually taken.
If I'm being honest, the way I see it, our industry is going to go down that path in the near future anyway. The increased regulation, the increased compliance costs, the cost of doing business are much higher than they were 5-10 years ago. So I do imagine that more and more mergers will take place in the next few years. I think it's becoming harder and harder for the sole practitioners and the smaller firms to continue to compete as they are at the moment. So that obviously had a bit of a bearing on our decision. Michael and I have had discussed. So Mint Finance is relatively young, so it's not even 5 years old yet. But Michael and I had imagined that that the situation could come quite soon. And we always discuss, we said that, there might be a time where we need to merge with another firm to be stronger and to be more competitive. A year ago, when Zampa Debattista had contacted us, we felt immediately that it's a good opportunity. They have done really well. They grew a very good business and a very good name for themselves. So we said, we need to really give this sort of importance and discuss. And so far, it's been good. It's been challenging, obviously, as every merger would be. But so far, so good.
That's wonderful. And perhaps, John, you could tell us a little bit about the merger decision from your perspective as well. And then perhaps you could tell us as well a little bit about the specialisms, the core specialisms that both Zampa Debattista and Mint Finance bring to the table. And of course, together will continue to bring to the table.
Definitely. To be honest, Jo, more or less, both firms offer the same services. So what the merger is giving us, and the major asset of this merger, is perhaps the depth that this organization will have after obviously merging. Why is it an asset? It's an asset currently because if you had to look at the labor market in the professional services industry, more in particular the accounting and audit profession, we are seeing shortages in the labor market. So we are seeing demand is obviously higher than supply. And above that, there's also another situation where it's very, very difficult to find the right people and the right talent. And that is what made the Mint outfit a very, very important and attractive party to merge with, because they are a young team full of passion and energy and with a lot of talent. And that's very, very important in order to remain relevant to our customers. So we need that type of talent, especially when there's lack of it. ZD, from our end, we are very strong in VAT when it comes both to advisory and direct taxation advisory and compliance, and also financial reporting. On the other hand, I think Mint managed over their life, they managed to invest heavily in strong client accounting relationships. They also invested heavily on cloud-based accounting systems. And we believe that their accounting function, which will be led by Mark, is definitely the new and revolutionized way of doing accounting, client accounting, especially when it's outsourced. We have very strong auditing practices. This will be managed by myself, and it will be the largest department, so it will be the biggest headaches will unfortunately fall on me. However, I'm the eldest of them all, even though Mark has included me in his age bracket. I'm unfortunately moving on to my 40s. He's still in his early 30s, so they put the responsibility on me. We will start also focusing on something very, very important, and Chris will be focusing on this, which is mergers and acquisitions, valuations, business advisory. And we can see that in this current landscape, even due to jurisdictional problems and the way things are moving, even the pandemic itself, we're seeing more businesses, customers merging, and we're seeing more acquisitions. So we need to remain relevant for our customers and obviously take them towards offering this service to help them also in their processes. What, however, this merger gives as well is it's freeing a lot of our time as partners. In 1 year ago, we were just two, Matthew and myself. All of a sudden, we had an internal partner being promoted and another two partners joining externally. So we'll be 5, which means I can personally focus on my area, my core area, even more. I can spend and dedicate more time on my area. And specialization will definitely then mean that we will render a better service to our customers. So that is, I think, what made this merger very attractive.
That's wonderful, John, and indeed, very, very positive news for your clients there. This increase in specializations, and of course, this increase in resources by bringing more people to the table, giving you more time to focus, like you say, on your specialism. Thanks for that, John. So perhaps you could also tell me just a little bit about, the merger's been in play now since January, so it's taken you a year to sort of finalize everything, to bring this news to the table, to make this announcement. Perhaps you can talk a little bit about the process. What's led you up to this moment?
It started off all by a phone call by Matthew to Mark, and I think from there everything came very, very natural, I must say. However, again, going back to my age, I'm 39, I'm the eldest, so we believe that we are still inexperienced in such transactions. So we believe that we needed help, someone to guide us, someone to take us through this whole process. We appointed a business coach, Nathan, who took us through this whole process over a span of 4 to 6 months. And basically, he sat down with us in each and every meeting to take us through this process and make sure that we are approaching this difficult and challenging change in the right way. In one of our first meetings, Nathan told us, listen, are you aware that 70% of the mergers fail? And we said, wow, that's a good start. And we were taken aback, obviously. It was quite scary for us because we were, Mint were obviously believing in this. We were believing in this, and we were putting all the resources, time, energy, and effort to try and create something even better than what we created. And the way we approached it basically is frequent meetings. And in these meetings, Jo, believe me, it was 90% of discussing our values, our beliefs, and it was just 10% of our time discussing the financial equation, the formula of how partners should be remunerated. And I think mergers fail more often than not because they are based, and the initial discussions are mainly based on and revolve around the financial packages, the equation of how the merger should work out. When we tried to focus our time on establishing common values, common beliefs, those of integrity, honesty, and passion towards our lines of service. What we also try to do is, since we are ZD, we were before the merger, we were 60 people, and Mint were 20 people. So we were the larger firm. What we avoided doing is trying to plug Mint into ZD. That wouldn't have worked. So what we did is, together with our business coach, we sat down and we went back to the drawing board. So we started mapping and designing a new business model. Obviously, there were the best things from Mint and the best things from ZD, which were brought together in building a new business model, which, however, is based on the set of common values and beliefs which both firms have. So that was fundamental, and that is what the business coach tried to ensure, that the merger is being done between two parties who ultimately believe in the same thing. So I think we were moving in the right direction. We are still moving in the right direction. What we also did is that, as from July, Mint came working under the same roof in our Mosta offices. That helped too. It helped in the integration. We had more training sessions together. We had more meetings, not only at board level, but also at employee level. So we tried also to streamline all the approaches, all the technical stuff and knowledge, so that obviously we're ready for this change as from 1st January. It's not done yet. I believe the streamlining and the standardization of processes will still happen in the first months of 2022, but I'm sure that we managed to reach most of the targets we had established.
Thank you for that, John. Very interesting and quite shocking numbers there to hear the number of mergers that do fail, and so good to hear that you guys chose to get the support that you needed in order to make this a success. So that's very interesting. I'm sure our viewers will be interested to hear about how that worked for you. And Mark, coming to you now, perhaps you could tell me about any major changes in personnel to the two organizations.
So far not yet, and hope it remains. Hopefully it remains that way. I mean, obviously, a merger does cause certain concerns from different partners and team members across the board. You're obviously putting together two groups of people into one firm. But so far so good. Obviously, I mean, I have to be realistic. I know that, and I think the other partners are on similar mindset, that the first few months of next year are going to be quite tough, ensuring that all our people are happy, or kind of feel valued and feel part of the team. And I think we need to work really hard on that, because being completely honest with you, I'd be really devastated if any of my team members had to move on as a result of the merger. And at the same time, over the last 5 to 6 months, I've invested a lot of time in getting to know all the people at ZD, and there are some really good people. And it would be a real pity if any of them decide to kind of not buy into the merger and what we're trying to achieve. But it's obviously going to be a bit difficult, and we have to really focus on that.
Absolutely. And similarly, are there any sort of concerns for sort of clients who are sort of moving with you? How are you, Mark, sort of allaying any concerns that clients might have about the impact on their accounts when it comes to moving over?
From ZD side, I think there's not much impact over there. It's business as usual, essentially. So it was. Again, I understand where you're coming from. It was a concern for me as well in the beginning when we started discussing this internally. We have to be realistic in the sense that certain clients do come to a firm like Mint Finance. Why? Because it's smaller. It's perceived to be more responsive, more flexible. There's more partner involvement. And certain clients might not want to be part, kind of have the finances sorted out serviced by a larger firm. What we did was we spoke to all our clients. We explained to them what's happening pretty early on, so they've known for quite a while now, even before we announced it. We sat down with them, we spoke to them, we told them that things are not going to change. We have to stick to our promise, obviously, because it's easy just telling people it's not going to change. We have to make sure that in the first few months of next year, there are no alarm bells immediately. Again, being realistic, there's going to be some miscommunication here and there. Hopefully, it's minimal. But I think all our clients have seemed to buy into it. In fact, as a part of the merger process, we actually sent letters to all our clients, asking them whether their intention is to remain our client post-merger. And so far, we haven't received any letters saying, we would like to terminate our services with you. So that's a good sign, but we have to really take care of our clients as well.
It is indeed a good sign, but yes, as you say, it's all about sort of taking things forward. But again, it seems like all due diligence has been taken into consideration, and it really is a meeting of minds when it comes to this merger. John, perhaps now you could tell us a little bit about the fact that Malta is in the spotlight at the moment when it comes to financial services. Has that had any impact on the merger?
Jo, as you say, unfortunately, Malta is in the news for the wrong reasons. So we're in the spotlight. To make things worse, I think we're currently facing a lot of challenges and difficulties, not just because of Malta, but because of all the other surrounding factors. I spoke about the labor shortages we have in our market. Malta's obviously grey listing, which made the situation even worse. But beyond that, there is also the accountants, our profession, because of a couple of scandals which were in the news, unfortunately tarnished our reputation. So currently we're looking at market conditions which are quite difficult, and probably even in the light of these factors, the merger is even more important and makes more sense. We need to weather the storm. So there is a storm. The storm won't end anytime soon. So we need to definitely make sure that we are more robust and strong to weather this storm. I believe the merger definitely will give us what it takes to weather this storm. In fact, we believe that we'll definitely have a better corporate governance structure. So from 2 partners just a year ago, we're moving on to 5 with very strong ethical values. We're going to have a strong and more robust management team, and that is what is needed to take our team and our clients to the next level. And we'll have, as already said in my previous what I said before, a very strong and talented team, because it is the people, our juniors, our seniors, who will be out there advising clients, helping clients, spotting unusual activity, which is also very important, to make this happen. We definitely also invested in a very strong anti-money laundering team. So the grey listing, unfortunately, is there because of Malta's poor anti-money laundering frameworks and related issues. So with our strong AML team, we also have roped in through Mint Finance a lawyer, an in-house lawyer who specializes in anti-money laundering matters, to head and to be our MLRO. And that will be also a step in the right direction. Why? Because this was carried out previously by us partners. And in order to be an effective and good MLRO, you need time. You need resources. And that is, I think, a very costly decision, but we believe that this is a step in the right direction also to weather this storm which we have been discussing in Malta for the past 2 years. What we need basically to do is continue investing in our workforce, continue developing our workforce. Why? Because the next couple of years won't be easy. As you said, Jo, the spotlight is on us. It's particularly on us because it's on the financial services industry, and we need to restart rebuilding. As a jurisdiction, as a profession, we need to start rebuilding, not being negative, but trying to take the opportunity to come out of this much stronger. And I believe the merger, I firmly believe the merger will make us stronger in order to come out of this period even better.
Thank you, John. And indeed, sobering words there about the situation, and in Malta with regards to the grey listing, etc. But again, the merger making you stronger to be able to go into this to fight as much as possible. And sort of staying on that topic now, looking towards the future, looking towards 2022. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your vision for ZD going forward. And perhaps you can also, to wrap up our conversation, give any business people watching your advice for the year ahead.
Sure. So basically, our vision, the partners have decided the vision for the next 5 years at least. And I think the vision here is definitely to go back to the roots of our basic values, of our core values, and make sure that we are loyal to these values. And our values basically are built on those of integrity, honesty, and passion. So we need to have a very strong work ethic. We need to pass these values on to our staff and make sure that we really follow these values in anything we do. We also have to work with passion, commitment, because passion brings energy. We have a young team who are all energetic, ready to help customers and the fellow colleagues to make sure that we take our customers to the next level. Regarding our vision, I would summarize them in 2 main points. Number 1, we need to grow sustainably. So we should not just look at the numbers and say, listen, we should be We are 80 after the merger, 80 members of staff. In 5 years' time, let's be 150. I think that doesn't work. I think we should grow sustainably and make sure that we consolidate on the good we have. The merger will bring a lot of changes. So we need to monitor these changes and the effect of these changes closely to make sure that we're reaping the benefits. The vision also, our vision is this merger brought a lot of talent, but in service lines, we did not grow. So what we will be looking at is definitely try to expand our service lines horizontally, so giving breadth to our services. And this should be there because we're seeing the landscape which is changing, both because of the pandemic and also because of the jurisdictional problems Malta is facing. Through the pandemic, for example, we have seen customers changing the way they work, customers changing the way they sell their service, customers changing their basic policies and procedures. And so what we'll be looking at is try and invest in those services which will help us help our customers more and more. And we're basically looking at two types of services here: IT services, and automation services, automations of procedures, processes, and transformation and innovation services. And I think this will be the future. We need to invest in transformation and innovation services. And I would like to link this, the transformation and innovation services, with the advice I would like to give customers out there, people out there, businesses out there. Basically, what customers should be doing here is, first of all, what we've been seeing in the past is shifting from customer centricity to product centricity, and this is creating problems. It's important to give, obviously, the importance to the product or the service they are selling, but it's very important to go back to customer centricity. That is, trying to put the customer at the focus, in the heart of anything we do. So this applies to FM like us, who should put the customer first, and also to our customers and to our potential customers. They should focus on the customer in each and every process, and they should foster this culture throughout their employees. Obviously, another word of advice is focus on transformation, focus on innovation. There are a lot of grants out there being granted by the EU, which unfortunately some of them are still being untapped. So make use of these grants, transform your services, innovate, adapt to the new realities, not to remain behind.
Thank you, John. Some great advice there, and also great to hear about your vision going forward. Certainly very exciting times for you coming in 2022. And Mark, to wrap up, I'd love to sort of hear your final thoughts, perhaps on the merger itself, but also on your advice for businesses going into 2022.
Okay. No, I think as I said earlier, I think we're all very excited by the merger. I mean, we've been working on it for the past year now. Now it's actually happening, and we need to really be prepared for a challenging first couple of months, I think, until everyone settles down. But I think it's positive, and we're, at least I'm really looking forward to it now. Some key advice. So at the moment, December and January, I spend most of my time meeting up with key clients to prepare the budgets and forecasts for the next year, for 2022. And it always strikes me as I always see clients who are very, very, very positive and optimistic at this time of the year. Next year we're going to achieve this, next year we're going to do that, and so on. And every year I start seeing the same trend. And then in March or something, if something goes wrong, clients tend to get very, very negative, very pessimistic. This happened. I think what I want to say is that it's important that you persevere and you don't take any rash decisions. Sometimes when you come up with an idea and with a forecast of what you want to achieve, you've done that based on some actual thought of it. You're not just throwing numbers around. And it's important that clients remain honest to their forecasts and their ideas. and not to give in as soon as things get a bit rough. I mean, the pandemic seems to be here to stay again, unfortunately. So next year again is going to be a bit volatile. So I think it's important that all our clients and remain positive and don't panic for now.
Thank you, Mark. Very good advice there indeed, to sort of keep your positivity from this time of year going into the new year. And on that note, thank you both very much for being with me today. It's very interesting and exciting to hear about your news. And we all wish you the very best for this merger. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, as always, to you watching at home or from the office. Thanks for being with us on the Boardroom. And as this is our last show for the year, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a happy, successful New Year.